Thank you. Well, you might have seen me before, so I will be very short. I'm still Magnus, not Markus. Oh, no, it's right, it's Magnus. So I've spent the last 5 years or so in IoT. Former investor, 20 years with American IT companies, 9 years with Apple computers. I've seen some things and so forth. I am now devoted to IoT. I have an alliance, 42 companies, 6 of them out here. You can visit them. And I also participated in a number of enterprises myself, small enterprises myself. So let's talk. I'm also a former investor, by the way, so I have a little bit of experience in this field. So I would suggest that we ask our panelists to introduce themselves shortly. Let's start over you.
Absolutely. Okay. Hi, my name is Björn. I'm happy to be here, and I'm with the exceet Secure Solutions. This is a 100% subsidiary of the exceet Société Européenne, which is a technology firm that provides production, development, and services all around intelligent electronics, and I run the M2M IoT business segment.
Okay, please.
Yeah, hello everybody. My name is Markus Hannen. I'm within PTC. I'm in charge for the business development and pre-sales organization in Europe. And PTC, as many of you know, is a software provider in the enterprise solution business. And on top of this, over the last couple of years, we have made a lot of acquisitions in order to complete our solution footprint in terms of smart connected products.
Hamid, we already know.
Yeah, my name is Hamid-Reza, managing the business Qualcomm in Germany.
Holger.
Thank you very much. I'm, so to say, the weird thing in this round. I'm not an industry person, but I'm a lawyer specializing in M&A transactions, venture capital transactions, for more than 13 years now, based here in Düsseldorf in a mid-sized law firm, and we deal a lot with M&A tech issues, and in particular, over the past month and years, in the venture capital business.
Excellent. So, in my view, it's been very hard to raise investment, to get investments into hardware, infrastructure, tools, and platforms over the last 5, 10, 15 years. But that seems to have been changing now with IoT. People like you, PTC, for instance, you have just made a couple of investments, as you say, acquisitions. And I mean, you told us about a lot of investments all over the space. Why has that changed? Why are we interested in hardware, in tools, in infrastructure, and so forth, and platforms today? Maybe PTC is a good starting point for that.
Good. I think from my perspective, it's a logical consequence, in particular for us, as a company who has developed software solutions for developing products / at the end, things. And when we have extended our footprint, it became more and more to the question, how can we bring informations from the product back to the product development process? Therefore, the logical consequence was that we acquired a platform. We acquired, for example, exceet, a company focused on M2M connectivity. Next acquisition was big data. We acquired CodeLight, which is doing real predictive maintenance analytics in the big data. And for sure, I'm excited to see what's going on. But again, for me, as someone who takes care about product development, it was a logical next step to move into the connectivity market.
Hamid, what would you say?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, but I see it more, not only the hardware, but also the software solution around it. For instance, our 2Net platform for wireless health is also actually a hardware that connects to the medical devices, but the solution is like end-to-end, with platform management and software connected to it. But that's a big growth area, and we believe in it.
No, IoT, as you all know, involves a lot of different things. It starts from kind of sensors to hardware to big data and also distribution of things to apps and so forth. So we can't really cover all of that, but would you have any views on which of those areas are most hot moving forward?
That's a good question. So honestly, if you want to set up an IoT project, you have, like you mentioned, and the guys also mentioned, you have to take care of many disciplines. So starting with sensor issues, ending with integration into ecosystems of companies, and having security as a big point in the middle. So what is a hot? I think hot is definitely, I think, everything what helps companies to go into the predictive and really in the big data analytics use cases.
Okay. Any other comments on that? Good.
Fully agree. I think hot topics are not only solutions, not only the different entry points. Hot topics also are the way how we address the execution of projects, or going one step further, how we address education of people. I think there's also one important topic I see right now in the industry, that it's important to come from an analog education system in Europe to a digital environment where the people learn, develop things in a context. And this is something which is, from my perspective, one major topic for us for the future. Also, if we include how we educate people in the industry or in universities.
And Hamid, Qualcomm Ventures, you are investing all over the place.
Yes.
So is that because you need to figure out what is moving and what's going on, or is there a specific strategy behind that?
Well, you know, we started in 2000, and that's why over history we have also other investments. But now the strategy is really around three types of investments. So one is IoE, and we had the example of the LifeX, the smart bulb, and this lock, smart lock, August. And then also the wireless health platform, 2Net. We have also a fund there, $100 million fund for investments in health industry. We also have a fund together with Novartis that we have a 50% joint venture with Novartis focused on the health area. Then the other area is robotics, and the third area is cloud. So that's what we believe are the growth areas in our view. Yeah.
Holger, are the startups and the small companies that you see, are they gearing themselves correctly when it comes to IP and things in order to be acquired or brought into the large organizations forward?
Well, it depends. If you look at more mature companies, the big transaction, there the IP is best protected. There are almost no issues. It would be very surprising if one would find out that there is something wrong. But on the other side, as you said, with Qualcomm, it's something what also other big corporates do. They put a certain amount of money into venture capital. And with venture capital companies, young startups, it's always difficult. They don't have the funds when they start to really protect the IP, which is often an issue. And but when the venture capital investor comes in, he will do a due diligence, find out, and most of the things can be rectified at that time. It is very rarely that the IP is lost or gone. We have had some issues with employee inventions in Germany in particular. In the past, it has been very, very expensive if you did not meet the certain criteria. But from a practical point of view, in theory, the problem is still there and may still be there, but in practice, this has disappeared. So the startups, for the startups, it's a problem, it's a challenge, because they do not have the funds and the liquidity to pick up the advice they should if they have the funds.
So I work a lot with entrepreneurs, and a lot of them today, they actually work with open source software and even hardware designs. Is that becoming an issue later down the road when the large guys will acquire them? Is that a problem, do you think?
Yes and no. It may be a problem because under the licenses, the general public licenses, you always have to tell the public about any changes you have done to the real source code. But many startups start with the open source code and put something on top. And in many cases, it's not 100% sure, but in many cases you can differentiate between what's the open source part and the new part. And that's an issue where I guess for the time being everyone will have to live with.
Do you see open source as an issue, an opportunity?
Opportunity.
Opportunity.
Fully
No
agree.
problems when they come there with their open source stuff.
No, because as I agree with Holger, it's a mixture, right? For instance, open source, you need also really to scale the market. Think about smart home. There are some open source projects like Olsen Alliance where actually Qualcomm is active in. So the TV of Samsung, if you want this TV to speak with a hi-fi, with your audio equipment, so you need an open source standard that you can control, for instance, by your tablet or your smartphone, that you can discover this new equipment. So if you buy an LG TV, it works then seamlessly. But then you add on top your own IP that makes you differentiating. But I think you need to have both. It's not like, yeah.
What about, I would think about, another area of interest is obviously the big data, issue or opportunity, which a lot of people talk about today. Numbers are even bigger than in the number of connected devices now. It's huge. So to me, it seems that's a lot about, data centers and economies of scale type of things. Is there an opportunity for small startups to actually become big in that space, do you think?
Yes, I see an opportunity. Big data is a big name. But if we look to what's going on, there are many, many smart things coming up just about small data, which will grow over the years. And in particular for companies which are entering that road of connectivity, they do not start from scratch with big data. So it's a journey for them. Everybody sees the big data, or let's say at the end of the road, but as a part of the road. But coming back, yes, I think that's a big opportunity for us if we have a bigger growing community taking care about all these different points. Everybody's coming from different angles as we sit here together, from complete different angles, and it's about the topic, and we have to make sure that we succeed from European perspective in this area.
You share that view?
Yeah, I think so. If I understand your question right, then the question was also from the angle if this for startups is interesting in regards of being maybe acquired someday. And I think absolutely yes. What we saw in the past, I think the last acquisitions PTC made that have, with all respect, but that have been very young companies. ThingWorks has been very young, but had a complete on-the-edge technology. I think your latest acquisition, the Cold Light acquisition, is also
a startup company growing in that area. But we also made acquisition with a 2-decade history in that area. So it's always about a good mix, and new thoughts, new ideas are a gift in that industry, and we can be happy to be part of that journey. There's no other industry where inventors, entrepreneurs are starting a business, and it's good for the entire community.
Do you think, investors hate risk, so much I learned. So, there are some issues regarding big data, which, security and integrity and all of those. Is there a risk that your investment in this space can fall back on you as something really bad?
For sure. There's a lot of money you have to pay. We see many acquisitions in that area. Even companies like Apple are acquiring, for example, Metaio, German-based augmented reality company. So they're on the spotlight. This does not make it cheaper for companies to acquire a startups company. Yes, but there's a big risk. Yes, but that business needs a good portion of risk to go into that calculated risk to be successful or to be a leader in that market.
Holger, I think as a lawyer, I guess you see a lot of risks, don't you?
I always see risk anywhere.
So is that something the legal community is working a lot on, or is that going to be a big business for you maybe onwards?
Well, if it comes down to data security and data protection, we have a status quo, and you have to differentiate between the data security as such, so the physical protection of the data and the privacy issues. Privacy is, I guess, one of the biggest challenges the IT industry currently faces and will face in the future, because we do not have a European or even a global standard on which criteria you have to meet, which provisions you have to abide by, etc. And there's so much going on. Plus, we always look in Germany in particular, but also in the European Union at the consumer, and want to protect his rights, whatever these are. I'm fairly sure that most of the people that use a smartphone, which should be the vast majority, don't know what they do if they install a new app and allow the app to gather the data stored on the phone. So there is certainly a need from the legislators' perspective for a unified legislation, at least in the European Union. But this may or may not be work for in favor of the IT companies.
I'll share with you what happened in Sweden just a couple of weeks ago. The government agency in charge of data security and things like that, they ruled that if you know the IP address, you can track down the person behind. And that's actually the current state of the industry. That will change, if you ask me. It's an impossible way to go. But that's actually what happened now. If that would be true, it would be devastating for basically anyone doing anything with IT and IoT. So, talk about big data. Another thing which we rarely talk about, I think, today is the other way around. You know, very intelligent devices in the edge of the networks. Things that can, you know, putting kind of AI into the edge of the network, learning, self-learning systems and all of that. Is that something you find interesting today?
Yes.
I mean,
yeah, there are interesting technologies in that area as well that, you know, the device is becoming more and more intelligent for proximity-based services. Because, for instance, privacy, for instance, if you, let's say dating service, a very good example. For a dating service that two people that are living, let's say one is in Stockholm, one is in Frankfurt, they meet here and they want to maybe date, you would need to send your location all the time to a server somewhere and continuously, so that the server determines, they are close to each other, let's match them together. There are technologies coming up, you call it in LTE Direct, that you can, within 1 kilometer, you know, discover in the device thousands of devices and based on the algorithm match the two devices together. So these are huge opportunities for big data, but also for these kind of services. But the precondition is still that, you know, that this is really standardized, that you need to identify all these devices, so you need kind of a DNS, like, you know, www, something like that, for this kind of device. So there's some work to be done, but on the technical level, it is standardized, it's existing.
For us, as a software vendor who takes care about helping companies to develop products, what we did over the last 3 decades, so we provide solutions for simulate products in the virtual phase. We provide solutions to manage software or to describe the entire systems engineering or to optimize software code. For us now, it's an entire new world to come into the area where we merge the digital and physical world. This helps us to run through a self-optimization process during the development process, so that we can even utilize a connected car, for example, in the prototype phase to learn how the system is behaving, and we can use, instead of the assumption we made at the beginning of the development process, we can substitute assumptions with real data, calculate new software, update the product, and this is our idea of the real digital twin story, because we own the complete virtual representation of the car, and we can connect the virtual representation with the physical representation. This helps us to bring all our solutions on a complete new level in terms of self-optimization.
due to the fact that we are talking a lot about security, what is definitely needed in the IoT universe. I think this is also maybe an interesting field for M&A acquisitions. I read several articles that cybersecurity market is going to grow more and more. We acquired in 2011 an IT security company, and it was definitely the right decision. Revenues are growing, and we need it for the project. So, and coming back to your hardware question, even there, if you imagine sensoric with crypto chips, or even much more miniaturized with more computing power and with more, let's say, hardware that secures and gives unique IDs, this is also a very interesting field, I think.
We have 4 very experienced and skilled men here, and I'm man myself. Where are all the women talking about investments? How do we get the women involved in this? Do you have a good idea? Can we make an investment somewhere to make that happen? I always say that M2M stands for men to men, just so you know. So this is one of my common comments on all panels. And
it would be good to have this different perspective, definitely, because we tend to have our perspective, and women have better intuition, in my view. So, but what to do? I mean, we need to make them. I mean, they are better at school usually. I see my daughter is much better than my son, but I don't know why they don't study this technical. It's starting to grow, but at least in my time, I was in computer science, for instance. Nobody was, but from 800 people, 780 were men. So this is going to change, hopefully. It needs a lot of education, politics. It's not only.
No, can't we agree, the 5 of us, at least to do what we can to promote a couple of women in our companies? That would be great.
But I think if you view or you watch these IoT projects from a broader angle, that you say this innovation part and creating business models is also a key part of an IoT project, then I think we have the women. Yeah? Business I'm happy that we have women in business. And if we only see this technological point of the IoT, then I think, okay, we have maybe more men than women, but they are already there.
Well, my argument is so simple, because if we're going to touch the whole globe with our IoT, half of them are women, so we just have to get them involved one way or another. Talk about something else. What about apps? Every single large company I know of today, they have apps. They have one app controlling that thing, another app controlling that thing, and that's kind of the situation, generally speaking, today. I met a big international industrial company who said we have more than 200 apps right now, developed by different people, no idea how to maintain and how to. I remember the early days of the web. I think it was exactly the same. People were shutting up webs, and then they figured that these guys have to fit together. Is that a good area of investment? I know, Peter, you already work there, I think, if I'm correctly informed. But what do you think about that?
From platform perspective, I think it's necessary that we provide platforms that give companies the ability to manage all these different apps. Because right now we have a constellation where they have to do it again and again and again and again, and we are living in a very fast changing environment. So this is what is important from a platform vendor perspective. But I think it is one way we have to go, that many apps will come to the market in order to really conquer the market or bring the market to the next level. Yeah? So there are goods and bads behind all these apps which are coming up.
Agree?
We have a good example, WhatsApps.
Yeah.
Why did Facebook acquire WhatsApps? Because of the data, right? And I wish we had invested in WhatsApps if we knew that it's going to be. But that's, apps are important to really show also the use cases. Even so it's fragmented, but I think this will all converge during time. But it's really important to have the developers. We talked about this proximity-based services. Even if we talk about car-to-car communication, that is coming also up. You need use cases, you need apps. Call it apps or applications, or I don't know how to call it, but something that some developers have to develop to show experience to the customer. And I mean, autonomous driving is really, we're on that way, right? I mean, even today, I was driving yesterday a car from a friend. You can, you can enter the speed like 50 or 60, and then based on the distance to the car in front of you, it would go down to 50 or 40, and then go up again to 60. So it is already, happening. The sensors are there. We're on that way.
I think this is important. Also, coming back to education, what we did pretty successful is that we will invite all universities to compete on hackathons for apps. Yeah? And it's like a domino effect. Once you start developing a business solution for a particular area in the IoT area, a domino effect is starting. Because if you go that next steps, a couple of new doors are open. And the further you go, the bigger the opportunities to develop something really great. And we have recently announced for Germany now the same hackathon for all universities, where the different disciplines, it's not something for engineers only, it's something for every discipline to rethink what are relevant applications we can develop for the market. And if I look to our company, coming back to the women, it's a little bit different if we look to different industries. So we have one department covering, from IoT and connectivity perspective, the retail and consumer area. Huh? There you have a complete opposite picture, that you're the only man in the room. Yeah? If we talk about smart connected skis, yeah, or wearables, for example, opposite. Right now, if you go to traditional manufacturing, it is still a lot of men who...
None of you are really representing a product company. Well, you are in a sense, but if you are a refrigerator manufacturer or whatever, I mean, of course the app is very important. And I see so many industry companies, they have done their stuff and they have their APIs, and they say, so, hello developers, come on, here we are, come develop on my turf. I thought, don't you think that is a shortage of the whole system today? The developers don't want to be a Philips developer or Volvo developer or something like that. I think we need very good tools for prototyping and development of things. Also consumers, I don't want all those apps. It's terrible. I was in Italy actually, a guy showed me an app which controlled the fan in the kitchen. I thought that was overdoing a little bit, but... So, I think we should round off this. This is the last session of the day, and we have some parties going on around the corner, I'm told. So what would be your best guess on a fantastic investment? If you put some money into something today yourself, or my money into something in the whole space of IoT, what would that company do? In what field? Björn?
Yeah, I have several ideas, but if you would say...
I only want one.
I have one shot. I know. Then I would really go really into complete, secure, intelligent sensors that communicate for itself. They don't need gateways anymore. They really communicate.
Good choice. I agree to that.
For me, it's a combination of the security we will include in investing into the idea of using digitization for self-optimization, digital twin scenarios.
Very good.
And this is a broad spectrum.
There's more than one area, but I would say automotive is really a hot topic, happening already. So let's say smart keys that you can in a secure way open and or have the car coming out of the parking to pick you up or something like that. These are areas I think that are very interesting.
That makes me glad, because I work for an automotive company. It was just, a startup. Holger?
For me, it would be a cybersecurity company.
Okay, perfect. Do we have any questions from the audience before we round off? Yes, I don't think we have mics. Yes, please. Let's start with the woman over there.
Thank you. Hi.
Can you please present yourself, just so we know?
Yes, of course. My name is Lena Holsten. I'm from startup based in Munich. We are working in IoT field. And speaking of women, it's like speaking of the hidden champions. So, please, come on. Thank you. I agree with you that gateways will disappear. I agree. This is actually also one hot topic to us. And what we also see is that, because I heard your talks in the whole 14, that you are, as a big company, you are concentrating and you go for really big projects. So we see that there's individual projects, you need individual solution, and you need enormous of financing. What we do is we are concentrating small solutions, small technical machines, where we can scale, because they are all standards. They are all somehow they are standardized. And with our solution, we can provide, or we will be the first e-commerce for HMIs. This is our goal. And this is something different that you're talking, so we see the market there. So my question is also, so what do you think about moving from individual solution to standardized solution, and then the next step, personalized solution?
Makes absolutely sense, and you're right. My main focus is definitely at the moment the individual solution for, let's say, bigger companies. But we did acquire in 2014 the company Lucom to round off our portfolio and to have a more easy way into, let's say, smaller and more standardized projects. But at the moment, I can only handle one focus, but I'm completely with you. It makes sense, absolutely.
So as I can say, we are looking for an investment.
Okay.
It's a hidden pitch.
Okay, nice to hear that.
Please.
Hi, Ian Grant from Current Analysis. I'm curious just how much money there is in this market. If we gave a model of the market and say, call it $100, then how much money is there in hardware like sensors and modules and things like that? How much is there in connectivity? How much is there in the data processing after that? And then how much is there in the content after all the data has been processed? Any ideas? Can we get a consensus here?
Good question. Hannen, maybe you have the best overview from your horizon.
Yes, it's hard to say. It depends really. IoT is so broad. Let's say automotive. Automotive, I would say that the simple connectivity, I would say maybe 10% of the value. So most of it is software, is the platform, is applications, all of it. But I cannot give now a breakdown. I have to really no. But you know, but my message is that this connectivity, if it's really connectivity, just connecting A to B, this will be a lower percentage. You need really add value, you need software, you need combine the data together to make something good out of it. Example is, for instance, in terms of vehicle-to-vehicle communication, that, you know, it's not about just connecting A to B. You need to process the data, measure the distance, have collision warning, all the software, all this value that is, you know, created. I think this is where the value, real value, where the money is. But the other part is not negligible. So we are also in connectivity, we also provide software, but even so it's a percentage-wise lower value. This is like, okay, let's take another example. Let's take the smartphone. I mean, we can think of a smartphone, maybe it's 10% of the value is the chip. Just rule of thumb. It's not the case, sometimes more, sometimes less. You see what I mean? So that the whole, you know, all the apps, what you can do with it, the ecosystem is where the money is.
Any other views?
It's a pretty difficult question and very good question, because if you look, for example, you mentioned the automotive industry. We just had the discussion about what can we add in terms of additional hardware, in terms of additional secure elements, if we have a car with 600 sensors, for example, yeah? How to make it secure, yeah? Which is something we want to do. But if you look to the margin, of an OEM. Yeah? And if we look how less opportunity is for a couple of cents within a single component, yeah? It is a big challenge if we do not find a real new business case for IoT. Yeah? It has to be something which is completely new with a new value. Then you can get much more money out of it. But if you do not find additional new values, we can't provide added value. Yeah? That's the big challenge in the industry. Yeah.
How long is a rope? That's the question. I'll add two things to that. I'll tell the small story about Volvo, you know, the Swedish car manufacturer, or Chinese car manufacturer, sorry. They have been going on connecting their cars since 2000, or 99 actually. They spent a lot of money, they bought chips and all this kind of stuff, and nothing really happened for about 13 years. So, okay, so that was kind of one side of the story. Then they figured out that we have cold winters in Sweden, and if you could actually turn on the heater in advance, so your car is warm and consume less energy, and you know, it's warm and cozy to go to work, then people would probably buy their offering. And they did a couple of times poorly with SMSEs and stuff. Then finally they came out with a complete app, which people love. And I'm told that something like 50% of the cars of Volvo today are sold with the digital solution, the digital service. People pay annually and monthly and so forth. And I would argue that that's a huge business for Volvo to start with, far beyond the components that we actually talk about. But secondly, the whole brand changed of Volvo. And brand value is a huge part of this. So from having been this boring company where, you know, hello to your grandmother, nobody wanted to work, the cool guys didn't work to, now they want to work there, to do those kind of cool things. So I think that's a much more important part of the value than the actual different components, maybe. A last question somewhere? No. So thanks a lot to the panel.
Thank you.
And thanks for you.